is Vicky and I'm an intuitive coach, and today I'm coming on to do a reading for you to share the messages that your higher self wants you to know for 2022, and especially when it comes to living your purpose. Just adjust this slightly. So this is kind of what your higher self would like to say to you if you were to have a direct conversation, and to kind of remind you before you get too swept up in everything else that might be going on at this time of year. So what your higher self would like you to know about your purpose and love and money, because they are actually all really closely connected. So we'll see which messages come through. And it will help you to see where you need to put your focus for this coming year ahead. So let's have a look. Just get my cards arranged. A bit more space. Okay, so in terms of where you are now, and this came out in a reading I did earlier today, you have trust your path. And this is kind of the same sort of messages coming through, that if you knew that you were fully supported. So this is kind of taking stock of where you are right now and kind of seeing the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and kind of thinking or realizing that if I knew that I could make it, if I knew that I could get there, if I knew that it would all work out perfectly for me, what would I do? And sometimes when we say do, it's not necessarily even that you have to do anything, it's how would I be? Because action, it's not always a case of just taking more action and doing and doing and doing. So who would I be being in this moment if I knew that I could get there? So this is the question to ask yourself. This is what your higher self wants you to know, wants you to most know at this time. What is it? Where would you be putting your energy? And that might be in taking action, but it might also just be in a way of being. And it might actually be of reclaiming energy and kind of empowering yourself, bringing energy back to you. So stopping the things that let energy leak from you. And maybe that looks like decluttering or unsubscribing from things you don't read, or being very intentional about the things that you engage in, the messages that you read, the conversations you get involved in. Because if you knew it was all going to work out for you, what would you not be doing anymore? So what you're not doing is almost as important as what you are doing. And that feels a really important message for somebody. Obviously, this is a general reading, so just take it as it resonates. And if you're interested in kind of exploring this more for you personally, then the details of how to book a personal reading are in my information. Because where this is leading to, what is your soul calling for? And this is what's come out in Rama. Where are you being called to journey to? Where does this take you? What does this actually represent for you? Because in this obviously in this image, this is kind of like the land of all possibility. So on a personal level, what does that actually what does that mean for you? what is the land of all possibility for you. And in order to actually really understand that, because when we kind of think about what we want, one of our kind of knee-jerk responses is to kind of say, well, I'd like a loving relationships, but I only attract this certain thing. I'd like to have more money, but this is what always happens to me. We have an idea of what we'd like, but then we have a story based on what we have experienced that we then use to kind of cancel it out, as it were. So if you dropped the story, what does your soul actually want for you? You know, remember, these are messages from your higher self. So if you kind of detached yourself, if you divorced yourself from your own stories, from your own BS, what do you actually want to be moving towards? What does this kind of land of plenty, land of opportunity represent for you? What would it look like? What would it mean? What would your life actually be like? And this is kind of, you know, as we're coming to the end of a year, this is taking stock of how you spend your time, where you do put your energy currently, and are the things that you currently engage in, are they the things that are going to get you here? Or do you need to make some really big changes? And this is not necessarily just about resolutions. This is actually about intentions for how you want to live. If you do certain things, the way you treat your diet, the way you kind of manage money, the way you are in relationships, are those ways of being the way that you're going to be in this future life for yourself? And that's something that you can change right now. You know, don't have to wait for any particular time or event to happen. Because, and this is quite interesting, the way the cards have come out, what's kind of rising in you is this need of letting go. This is the crumbling card. So this is almost a bit like the tower in tarot. So what are you clinging on to? What are you kind of too fearful to let go of that is stopping you from kind of actually fully going on this journey? And that could be a person, it could be a way of being, it could be a belief system, it could be, you know, take it as it resonates for you. But what is it that you have, and maybe it's just your story. Maybe it's a story of how things don't really happen for you in a certain way. And that what's kind of the thing that's rising is that there is a real need to let it go because it isn't serving you. And it's become, that story has been part of your identity, and it has been a limitation to what you're actually here to experience. Because then, I mean, these cards almost look they've come out in the opposite, but they haven't, because it's all going to happen perfectly. What's falling away when you let go of what you've been clinging to? So this is the rising, because what's falling is in its place is this pure, brilliant light of being is able to shine through. If you look at the way the cards are, when this falls, when this completely crumbles and it completely breaks down, what then rises up in its place is this, is what you're actually here for. This is like your actual true divine purpose. This is you shining your light in the world. This is you being ready to trust your path and properly start this journey of what you're actually here to experience in life. Because you're not just here to experience lessons and hardships and challenges, you're actually here to do something and create something and to see and experience things. So when you've had this kind of tower moment, and towers don't always have to be, it doesn't always have to be as dramatic as this card would indicate. It is, you know, it could just be a way of thinking. It doesn't mean that your whole life is going to fall apart, but it's just that thing that you need to let go of. Because when you let go of that, you have all the answers and everything that you need to go on your journey. And your journey could be to just living a better life for yourself. That can be your purpose. It can be doing meaningful work in the world and serving others. That can be your purpose. It can be being present with your loved ones in a way like you maybe never have been before, and having much richer relationships. That could also be your purpose. However it resonates for you. Because again, what's coming out in your gifts is what is your soul calling you to do. You've been sat here contemplating, kind of thinking, oh, well, this is what I could do. This is if only I could, if it was possible for me. Sat in this kind of place of real contemplation and kind of waiting for something else to give you the impetus to move forward. And actually, this is something that you ignite within yourself. And maybe it's that you're an artist or someone creative. Maybe you have a kind of burning desire to go to a certain place, or to be involved in something, or to do something bigger than yourself in the world. And that isn't going to happen sat waiting. That will require you to actually, it will require movement of some kind for you. Because what's been manifested is, I mean, this card is called Take a Break, but it's take a break because this is a life's work. This, this journey that you're going on, this shining of this pure light and your divine gifts, this is more than just a simple life change. This is more than the sum of a resolution. This is actually starting something that is going to be lifelong for you. So you will need to take breaks, because this is, the long haul. This isn't, it says get off the treadmill. This isn't just kind of a short burst of energy, a short burst of, oh, I'm going to kind of hit the gym for a few months and lose some pounds. This is actually going to be a whole new way of being in the world. So, this is not a kind of just popping that down the road type of thing. This is a long journey, and you will need to take breaks and to rest and recharge yourself in the process. Because there will be time where you do need to sit and contemplate before making the next, but not to stay here. And when this comes down, that is what's going to allow you the movement to know when to rest and when to take action, to know when to rest and when to be, to know when to ask for support. And that's going to be very personal to you. So in terms of your next step, what your higher self wants you to know is protection. Call back your power. This is actually, I said about becoming very conscious about where you're putting your energy. This is really taking stock of actually this, the very first card we had, trust your path. If I knew that I was supported, but what are you doing to support yourself? Because the universe will come and show up for you in the way that you are showing up for yourself. So what support are you offering yourself? Do you have that feeling of support within yourself, or is that something that you need to work on clearing? The kind of maybe old energy that's got stuck, that is making you feel that I can't fully trust myself. I'm not fully consistent in this feeling. Because when you feel like that, then the universe will show you things to mirror that back to you. So again, a time of taking stock, and which is very fitting for the end of the year, a time of taking stock and cutting cords that no longer serve you. And that's not just with people, it's maybe ways of being, it's maybe procrastinating, it's maybe scrolling on social media, it's watching TV which doesn't expand you, it's overindulging in certain things, it's kind of not being focused, it's whatever you personally need to do to pull back your energy. And in order to do that, you have to become really clear on where your energy is actually going. Because what you're being asked to do, and this is something that you have done before, you've done this in previous lifetimes, the experience that you're having right now is not a new thing. This is something that you have done over and over and over. You've been on this journey in different iterations for every kind of lifetime that your soul has come to experience. And the lesson is that you need to reclaim this power and energy within yourself so you can leap. And when you do, the universe will catch you. And if you've ever kind of thrown yourself into a swimming pool, you kind of can't half do it. You have to it's a full body. It's not just kind of, I'm going to mentally think myself into the water, or I'm going to kind of just stick my toes in and that will be enough. You have to full body do something. And this journey is your full body. It's not just, if I just have the right mindset. This is actually every part of your being embracing this. And when you do that, you will be more supported than you could ever have possibly realized. When you feel the trust within yourself enough to take that full leap, the universe will come and meet you tenfold. And that can feel very, very intimidating, because in this picture, she's a soul figure and there's seemingly nothing beneath her or particularly around her, but she is supported. She's fully supported. But she had to take the leap. And this is, again, similar to the message I had earlier. This is what you need to remember about this, and what your higher self wants you to know, is that you are breaking ancestral trains in doing this. I think train comes up because I often use that as the kind of analogy for timelines. And as you'll know, if you've ever seen a kind of train track, when you kind of go from one train line to another, there is a crossing. There is a point where the tracks kind of merge and switch. And that can be a bump in the path. And you need to remember that if you're coming up against challenges, if it's feeling difficult, if you're kind of having doubts, you are doing more than you realize. You are not just doing the things that you kind of actively see in front of you. By you stepping into answering the call of your soul, what your soul came here to experience, you are transcending the experiences that your ancestors had. You are doing deep healing work. You are moving onto a whole other timeline than you may have even ever thought possible for you. And here it says rewriting the future. Because otherwise you are going through, your soul is having the same experiences that you had and that you've always had until you break that pattern. And by doing that, you're literally, if we kind of think that, time doesn't actually exist and you're showing up in this moment differently than you would have shown up in any other lifetime, you are changing the course of history. And that's why, let me know if this is making sense, that's why when you do something that is a complete soul aligned thing, you, even if it just seems like, oh, I don't make a big difference, or I only kind of spend time with my family, you are actually rewriting history, because you are changing the future by the way that you're being, and you impact so many more people than you could ever realize by doing that. Every time someone kind of moves into a full soul aligned way of being, you are creating a new earth, a new consciousness by doing so. And that is felt beyond just your immediate circle of people, beyond even your followers, or beyond, it is felt so deeply, because it is breaking those old ways of being. It is causing, the crumbling that you have within you is representative of a much, much larger crumbling that needs to take place. And what's come out in the hopes and fears is warrior woman. Who you need to be to do all of this. Have you actually answered your deepest calling? Are you listening to this call? Have you kind of fully embraced what it actually would mean for you to live this fully? Because it can kind of, it can sound really kind of fancy to say, oh, I'm doing soul work or something, but there is also, there's a kind of a lighter and a darker side to it. There is a polarity. It is not just kind of a nice to have. It is being available to do whatever that requires of you. And as you see in on this card, she is a feminine woman. She's feminine, but she is also kind of fully aligned with her masculine, and she is prepared to cut out anything which is preventing her light from shining. So when we said about cutting cords and calling back your power, she is prepared to use that ability for whatever stands in her way and prevents her from doing her deepest, answering the call in the most fullest sense, however that looks for you. And obviously, that's a twofold process, because it can be very, it can invoke a lot of fear when some of those things that you might have to cut away are things that you don't think that you can live without, or people that you don't think that you can live without. But that is what changes a timeline. That's what breaks the chain. If you remain available for circumstances that really don't serve you, then you are just creating not only the same experiences in your life, but you are perpetuating the pattern for others as well. So every time, for instance, a woman stands her ground, she stands it not just for herself, but for all other women who have felt the need to stand their ground. Every time a woman learns how to use her voice, and this isn't just aimed at women, but nearly all my audience is always women, and it's always women that are drawn to me. The same applies for men too. And actually, I would say that I think it's just as an important, if not more important, message for men, because so many men do not have access to their actual voice, because they have such a misconstrued view of what that would mean for them. So let's kind of expand it. And anytime anyone learns to use their voice, it helps all others who are learning to use their voice. Whether you can directly see that or not, it is felt. And that's the part of the work that your higher self wants you to be aware of, that in order to kind of shine this brightly, you have to be prepared to cut away the things that were causing this darkness around you. And that takes a certain amount of courage and support. And so, when we kind of go back to where we started, that's why the support is so important. But this is going to lead to the land of all possibility, a life's work of being aligned to your soul, of having new experiences, of breaking free from the chains that have kind of been holding you back. And in terms of the potential outcome of what this finally looks like, you're already doing it. And I feel that's a really important message for someone to hear. Because it might not look how you would expect it to, but you are already doing this. If you've been drawn to this reading, you are already doing this. So you don't need to, it says stop overthinking. And it's stop overthinking because this is not just something that you do in your mind. As I said, it's a full body experience. This is something that you do with your whole being. Keep facing your true north. So this is about knowing where this all leads for you. And keep going. So I feel that's quite a kind of clear and strong message. This is part of what 2022, this is part of the message that your higher self would like you to know. And I'm just going to pull an oracle message as well. And some of that might sound quite, some of that might sound quite heavy and full on. But what I want you to kind of be aware of is that this is a life's work. So not all of this journey looks so harsh. It's not constantly cutting out everything, but it's knowing when, it's the discernment to know when to use this. She is not fighting, she is just standing, holding her ground. So it's not all so heavy all the time, but it's knowing when. But just as a reminder that if it does feel heavy, you are removing yourself from, a very old way of being that has been, has existed for generations. So a long, long time. Let's see what the wisdom of the oracle can add for us. And then we'll close out this reading. And what's come out is by the book. And to me, this card means that it's actually, when we just keep taking the steps forward, we're going to get there. All journeys can be broken down into a number of steps, and you can't necessarily, this destination is not like a kind of when you get told about goals and you just kind of backtrack. You set out your goal and then you just backtrack, but this is kind of knowing the next part and taking those steps, and then working out the next part and taking those steps, and just actually keep in that motion. And as you do, not only are you supported, but you also start to build momentum, because this can be kind of a scene of, as you keep moving, not only is this the kind of the support that's available to you, this is also, when you keep moving, you progress and you progress. That's how it seems to me. That's what I noticed about that card, is that as you do, you get bigger, you get stronger, you get more powerful, you become more determined, you get better sight as to where you're going, the more that you just kind of take those next 10 steps and move to that point. And maybe you have to take this pause every now and then to reassess where you're going. Maybe you need to kind of use some discernment and cut out things that are not serving you, and then you take the next part of your journey. So this was the message from your higher self for 2022. I'd love to know if it resonates, and if you want a personal reading, then the links will be below. Otherwise, I shall see you all soon. Bye for now.